Spain is famous for its vibrant cities, sunny coastlines, and rich cultural heritage, but hidden behind the tourist brochures lies a quieter, more troubling reality. Today, nearly 70% of Spain's land covering, hundreds of thousands of square kilometers, is considered empty. These vast interior regions, stretching across the Meseta Central Plateau and much of the Northern Highlands, are home to less than 10% of the population, making them some of the most sparsely inhabited areas in Europe, outside Scandinavia. To put this in perspective, Spain's average population density is about 94 people per square kilometer, but in provinces like Soria, Teruel, or Cuenca, it falls below 10 people per square kilometer, lower than rural areas of Finland or Norway. By contrast, neighboring France averages more than 120 people per square kilometer, and Italy over 200, with far fewer zones experiencing such extreme depopulation. Even more striking, over 50% of Spaniards live on just 1.5% of the national territory, concentrated in metropolitan areas such as Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, and Seville. Meanwhile, hundreds of villages have been abandoned entirely, and some municipalities now count only a few dozen elderly residents. This phenomenon, known as La España Vacía, reflects decades of migration, economic shifts, and policies that have transformed the country's social fabric. Let's find out the reasons why this land is so empty. 1. Challenging geography. One of the main reasons why so much of Spain's territory has become so sparsely populated is the challenging natural environment of its interior regions. Much of the country lies on the Meseta Central, a vast high plateau that stretches across the heart of the Iberian Peninsula. This area has a continental climate, with long, hot, dry summers and cold winters, and very little rainfall, making agriculture unreliable without irrigation. In many places, the soil is thin, rocky, and low in nutrients, suitable only for dry cereal farming or small-scale sheep herding, which historically could not sustain large populations. The terrain is also divided by mountain ranges, such as the Sistema Central, Sistema Iberico, and Cordillera Cantabrica, which for centuries made transportation, trade, and communication extremely difficult and left many villages almost completely isolated. Even today, a lack of infrastructure remains a major obstacle to attracting investment or keeping young people from leaving. In addition, the Spanish interior has few large rivers or reliable water resources, in sharp contrast to the fertile Mediterranean coast and the river valleys of the Ebro and Guadalquivir. 2. Traditional rural economy. For much of its history, Spain's interior relied on a traditional rural economy based on small-scale agriculture and livestock herding. Farmers typically practiced dryland farming, cultivating cereals like wheat and barley with limited tools and minimal irrigation. Because of the region's poor soil quality and unpredictable rainfall, yields were often low, keeping rural communities in a state of economic hardship. Transhumant shepherding, the seasonal migration of livestock between mountain and lowland pastures, was a widespread practice, especially in regions like Castile and Leon. While this way of life was well adapted to the environment, it was labor-intensive, low in productivity, and lacked long-term sustainability in a modernizing economy. During the 20th century, as industrialization and urbanization progressed, the countryside was left behind. Mechanization reduced the need for farm labor, and younger generations increasingly migrated to cities in search of stable jobs and better living standards. As a result, many rural economies collapsed, and villages once built around agriculture were gradually abandoned. 3. 20th century urban migration. During the 20th century, Spain experienced a massive wave of urban migration that dramatically reshaped its society and settlement patterns. Beginning in the 1950s and accelerating through the 1960s and 1970s, millions of people left rural areas for the country's growing cities. This movement was driven by several factors: the mechanization of agriculture, which reduced the need for farm work; the rise of industrialization, which created factory jobs in places like Madrid, Barcelona, and Bilbao; and improved transportation that made it easier for families to relocate. At the same time, the tourism boom along the Mediterranean coast generated new economic opportunities that attracted migrants from the interior. For many rural communities, this exodus meant a steep decline in population, with young people abandoning villages in search of better wages and modern living standards. Over just a few decades, Spain transformed from a predominantly rural country into an urban one, leaving vast areas of the interior sparsely populated or nearly empty. 4. Tourism and coastal pull. Another major reason behind Spain's rural depopulation is the economic pull of coastal regions, especially due to the rise of mass tourism from the mid-20th century onward. Starting in the 1960s, Spain became one of the top tourist destinations in Europe, with millions of visitors flocking to its Mediterranean beaches, Balearic Islands, and Canary Islands each year. This led to rapid urban growth and job creation in hospitality, construction, retail, and transport sectors along the coast. Regions like Catalonia, Valencia, Andalusia, and the Balearic Islands experienced significant population increases, fueled by both foreign tourism and internal migration from the rural interior. Meanwhile, the inland province, especially in central and northern Spain, offered few comparable opportunities, leading many young people and working-age adults to move toward the coast in search of better economic prospects. 5. Aging and low birth rates. One of the most critical factors behind Spain's empty heartland is the combination of an aging population and persistently low birth rates. As young people moved to cities or coastal regions over the past several decades, rural areas were left with a disproportionately older population. Many villages now have a median age well above the national average, and some towns are populated almost entirely by retirees. At the same time, Spain has one of the lowest fertility rates in Europe, meaning that few children are born to replace those who pass away. In many rural provinces, schools have closed because there are no students, and essential services such as healthcare and public transport have become harder to maintain as the population shrinks and ages. This demographic imbalance creates a cycle with fewer young families and economic opportunities. Even more people leave, accelerating the decline. 6. Infrastructure gaps. Infrastructure gaps have also played a major role in deepening the divide between Spain's thriving cities and its empty interior. While large metropolitan areas and coastal regions have benefited from modern highways, high-speed rail lines, and robust digital connectivity, many rural provinces still lack reliable transportation networks and essential services. In sparsely populated areas, roads are often narrow or poorly maintained, and public transport options are limited or non-existent, making it difficult for residents to commute, access healthcare, or attract businesses. In some villages, broadband internet remains slow or unavailable, putting local communities at a disadvantage in a digital economy. These shortcomings not only discourage investment and job creation, pushing more young people to leave in search of better infrastructure and opportunities elsewhere. Spain's vast empty heartland is more than a demographic statistic. It is a vivid reminder of how geography, economics, and social change can reshape an entire country. Today, the contrast between dynamic, growing cities and sparsely populated rural areas poses serious challenges for Spain's future. Understanding the story of empty Spain is not only about explaining why so much land is empty, it is also about imagining how it could one day be filled again. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked this video, feel free to share your favorite fact in the comments below. See you in the next video.